Hello, everybody. This is the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Chris Saunders, and I'm pleased to have on from Holy Cross the junior and QB1, Drew Caouette. Drew, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me.
It's awesome as always to be able to have Connecticut talents regardless of the sport. And, specifically from Holy Cross's standpoint, or rather from a broadcast standpoint, our first game is going to be Woodland and Holy Cross. And I had Morales on the running back about maybe less than a month ago, and I asked him I'm surprised they had this game so early because I thought they'd wait a couple weeks, get some wins under the belt, let things kind of, build up. But they're like, no, no, we want to jump right into it and get this thing going. Were you surprised to see the schedule and see Woodland so early?
A little bit because we played them so late in the year last year,
Hmm.
and we know that's always going to be a good game. They're a well-coached team. They
Hmm.
play hard. I was kind of surprised to see them week one.
But I know both from the Holy Cross standpoint and the Woodland standpoint, you guys will be ready, and it'll be a fun game on Thursday. 6:30 kickoff, 6:25 pregame at Municipal Stadium should be a lot of fun, especially to broadcast the game. Before we talk about this upcoming year, Drew, I want to talk about kind of your freshman year for a second because you were the backup quarterback for Kapritsky at the time, who ended up switching positions because you ended up taking over a spot. But when you had the opportunity, when you came in, and we were talking about the Naugatuck game, I remember broadcasting the game, and obviously you and Kapritsky are a little bit different height wise, but from
Right.
the standpoint of broadcasting the game, everybody looks like they're the same height. Everyone looks like they're like 3 feet tall. So when I found out that you were into the game, it wasn't until after the pick six. So I was like, holy cow, okay, who's this kid? Who's Drew Coette? And people were kind of telling me on the fly. So when you got into the game, what was your first thought? Tell me about that.
A little nervous, obviously, coming in the game as a 15-year-old freshman, haven't played a varsity game before that,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a little nervous. But I knew our offensive line was going to protect me, and our coach was going to put me in the right spot. And unfortunately, I made a bad read in the first play and went the other way for six.
Now, before that game, because obviously you don't really know unless an injury happens that you're obviously going in, right? But as far as preparing for the games leading up to that, practices and such, did you prepare mentally and physically every single rep like, hey, there's a chance I could go in, so I have to be ready?
Definitely practiced every day like I was going to start the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then just see where it went from there.
As you went into your freshman year, obviously there's things to be worked on. Not many freshmen really play at all, right? I mean, there's very few, to my knowledge, on the Holy Cross side that really get a lot of valuable minutes and reps, especially at the QB1 position. So as you were kind of preparing for, as the games progressed, did you ever get an inclination that there could be a chance at some point in the season, or did you just think, you know what, I just have to make sure I'm ready regardless?
I was ready at all times. My dad, he's on the staff. He always told me to be ready. My coaches told me to always be ready.
Mm-hmm.
I was mentally ready and then physically ready to play whenever they ask me to get in the game.
Now, something tells me, and your dad's the defensive coordinator, very passionate dude. I get worried sometimes when he's coaching because I don't want to see him get hurt. I feel like he's going to pull a hammy with some of the stuff he does. But he's a wicked defensive coordinator. It's fun watching him, especially from the broadcasting booth. Now, your freshman year, did your dad go easy on you when you would get in to get some reps, or was he like, no, gung ho, 100% after?
He's always hard on me. He wants me to be the best version of myself. He knows what I'm capable of, and he was always on me.
That's a sign of a good father and wanting the best for you, making sure, okay, if he's ready for this, I'm going to make sure that he's ready. You know what I
Right.
mean? Now, do you think your dad being on the staff now, sometimes some players would rather have their dads be far away, right? For various reasons. Do you think your dad being on the staff kind of helped you in terms of the varsity level and just overall as being a football player?
Overall, as a football player, it definitely helps. I get to come home and talk to personally who I think is one of the best coaches around about what I'm going against.
Mm-hmm.
He's what we're going to see from other teams. So he makes my job way easier.
So, if you could share your freshman year before the Naugatuck game, what were some things that he was telling you that he saw from the defensive standpoint that you needed to work on?
He was just telling me to step up into the pressure and not just run away,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Stay calm.
Okay, so when he was talking about you know stepping up and not rolling out, was he meaning for people who may not know? was he talking about kind of going through your progressions and not being as soon as the first guy is not open, then you just bail? Was he telling you kind of be more patient in the pocket?
Yeah, he wanted me to be patient, trust my read, trust my eyes, trust my coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and not just get out of there because, I'm the younger kid.
Now, when you came in against Naugatuck, who was the first person or coach to A, tell you, and B, after you threw the pick, who spoke to you after that?
I think the first coach who told me was Coach Bradley. He's not coaching there anymore, but he was the quarterback coach at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the pick six, when I came off the field, Coach Barbarito was there,
Mm-hmm.
and then Coach Bradley was there to talk to me about what happened on the play. They calmed me down a little bit because obviously that's a stressful situation. You come in for your first play and throw a pick six.
Now, if I remember right, that Naugatuck game, and sometimes my memory escapes me, but after that pick, albeit I know the game at the time looked like it was out of hand, but you were keeping Holy Cross in the game. Nagy really didn't have an answer as far as with your athleticism. Now, a little bit differently than some quarterbacks in the past for Holy Cross, but you were able to, and I know your dad mentioned about not having to roll out as much, but you were giving Nagy fits. Even though you guys didn't win that game, do you feel like that game, because you finished on a strong note and had success, kind of built up that confidence a little bit for the rest of the season?
Definitely made me more comfortable, more confident, and then it obviously gave me a lot of confidence for my next game, which is my first start.
Now, looking at last year really quick, first year as a full time starting quarterback for Holy Cross, and starting for Holy Cross at any position is huge. QB1 is a whole nother level. Do you think the off season? Now, I don't know what you did prior to your freshman year before you went to the high school, but did you do anything different the sophomore off season to kind of mentally and physically prepare for yourself for a full season?
Yeah, I would meet up with receivers, our offense, and
Mm.
just work on some stuff legally, obviously without coaches, um, and just make sure we all knew what we were doing. My freshman year, I didn't do as much of that.
How important was it, Drew, to have now Legy is no longer on the team, graduated playing college football. But how awesome was it to know that with you being only a sophomore quarterback, one of the very few sophomores, mind you, in the state of Connecticut that were playing for a high school football team? That's really cool to be able to be a part of that, right? But how awesome was it to have a running back like Tom Legy there, who not only is that safety blanket, but a leader on the offensive side and who's been around the block quite a few times back in the day.
It was big. He was a big time leader, and like you said, he was our safety blanket. If we need the big play, we know we could get him the ball, or we could get Marcus the ball.
Mhm.
But he was always there.
Now, you and I were talking about kind of your height a little bit, and I'm sure you're still growing, but obviously not everybody can be 6'4", 6'5". I'm 5'11", right? Hopefully you can get, I mean, how tall are you?
I like 5'9".
Okay, so hopefully get a couple more inches. But hey, you know what? We were talking about Drew Brees, Russell Wilson. They have success. Obviously, being a little bit smaller, you need the offensive line to help you, right? And they're huge for any sport, any or not any sport, but any football team rather. So as you were heading into your sophomore year last year, were you talking to the offensive line a lot, kind of about how you play that quarterback position, so they knew what to do?
We had a new offensive line coach come in my sophomore year, and I know him personally. He lives like right across the street from me, and I would talk to him about what we do and how I play the position, and he would relay the message, and then we talked a bunch when the season started, and they really grabbed that well.
Last year, I remember the Holy Cross, you know, just thinking about kind of how the offense was, and there were so many pieces, right? And when you guys played against Naugatuck and Ansonia, right? Talk about, those two games, and I'm pretty sure they were back to back. They weren't back to back as far as I think there was a week off before the Ansonia game, if I remember right. Um, being a part of those games, I mean, from your standpoint in your position, you showed flashes of some very, very nice things. To be a part of that, how cool. I mean, just take me into that, man.
It was cool playing in those big games. A lot of adrenaline, a lot of people there. It's what you play high school football for.
The way that you play, man, and again, I'm really excited to see kind of what you're going to show this year for your junior year, right? Your sophomore year, what were some of the things that you wanted to make sure that if I did anything wrong, it couldn't be this, and that? What were they?
Didn't want to turn the ball over, give the other team good field position. And also didn't want to leave my receivers out to dry.
Mhm.
I did that quite a bit my freshman year. I got Luke Dodona. He took a kill shot in the waterbury career game. I
Mhm.
learned, different types of balls, high ball, low ball.
Okay. Now, as far as your athletic ability, because you have something to go back to what I've mentioned, there's not many quarterbacks who have when I see true athleticism, there's guys that can run around, but they don't really know what to do. I've noticed, and you don't run a lot to again the games that I've seen, but when you do, it's very efficient. Now, without giving up too much, is that by design? Like, do you know that okay, if I'm gonna go, I know I've got 8, 9 plus yards to be able to work with, or wherever that marker is for the first down. Do you know that?
It's usually just on the fly. Something breaks down. I don't like what I see, and I just
Mhm.
get yards when I can.
Now, is that a part of is that a part of your tool shed, a part of your toolbox that you want to continue to utilize the athleticism as far as at the quarterback position?
Definitely something I want to improve on too. I like to run the ball a little more.
Mhm. Now, when you say improve on, do you mean as far as kind of to show defenses like, hey, make sure you have somebody spying on me, which then allows more one-on-one opportunities with the skill guys. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I want to keep the defense honest. Don't forget about me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when if I'm not running the ball, they could just they're +1 on run plays. There's another guy over the top of a receiver, like you said, doesn't create as many one-on-one opportunities.
Now, heading into your junior year, and I read the article, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago in the Rep Am, and Mark Jaffe did a great job as far as talking about yourself and some of the other players. Campbell was another, and some of the other wide receivers that you have. I think some people kind of forget. Obviously, Campbell's fantastic, but Holy Cross is deep, probably one of the deepest teams in terms of wide receiver positions that I've seen in the state of Connecticut, right? Um, if you can, talk about some of those wide receivers.
We got Dylan Gray, Ronald, Florian, Gavin Perone, Nick D'Amato. They're all weapons for us on the offensive side of the ball. And, teams are going to try to take away Marcus. He's not a secret anymore after what he
Mhm.
did last year. So we have all these other weapons that we can go to if we need to.
Now, what game was it that people probably said, okay, now we need to start paying attention to Marcus because that new Fairfield game was ridiculous. What did he have? 4 touchdowns in the second half, like 400 yards.
I think probably the Naugatuck game. After that game, and then after, and so many people are like, "Oh wow, this kid's legit."
Mhm. Now, with the wide receivers that you have, does each one kind of have their own? Obviously, Marcus has the complete package, right? He's got everything. God blessed him with, hey, kid, you're going to be good in everything in terms of that position. So you're set. The other guys, I feel like, have their own little thing that makes them very special. So if you
Right.
can, share kind of what each one does really well, or multiple things, if that's the case.
You got two guys in the slot. You got Nick D'Amato and Dylan Gray who can run by people.
Mm-hmm.
Nick D'Amato also will go up and get a ball. Gavin Prone runs good routes, catches the ball. He's
Mm-hmm.
efficient. Ronald Florian, super fast, can jump. They all have similar aspects to their game, but very different.
How confident, Drew, does that make you feel as a quarterback and as a player that you know that okay, if I can't find anybody and I have to throw a bubble screen to Campbell, right? You know that could be 15, 20 plus yards. Or Perone, for example, with the route tree, because he's got a very good one. He could be open more often than not. Or if you're going to throw a 50-50 ball, Florian or Gray could probably go up and go get it. How confident does that make you?
Makes my job easier. Makes me more relaxed knowing that I can trust my playmakers.
Mm-hmm. Heading into this year, man, from what you could share without giving up too much to anybody who watches this, what were some of the things that you wanted to work on to make sure that this junior year was better than your freshman year midway through and then your sophomore year in totality?
Again, staying relaxed in the pocket,
Mm-hmm.
not breaking down when the play doesn't go the way I like it. And then mentally, after something bad happens,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting about it and playing the next play.
And I don't know if your dad's mentioned this, but as somebody who's been now 2 full years in varsity, 2.5 if you want to count your freshman year, I think about repetitions and getting the experience, right? I'm sure you've talked to your dad if you watch the pros. Hey, this guy needs to be able to play because you can only learn so much by using your phone, using a board, watching video. You got to play the games. You got to get the reps. You got to get that feel. So, as somebody who has so many throws and reps and seen the defenses, you talk to your dad, you've been through, going to Bloomfield in that game, right? The new Fairfield game, getting to Bloomfield and just missing out on a chance to get to the title game. Being through that, like, just talk to me about how important that was for you in terms of just as a football player, but as a young man as well.
Yeah, gives you experience, humbles you a little bit when you go through some of the hard times, like a tough loss to Ansonia, tough
Mm.
loss to Field, obviously, and obviously a heartbreaker to Woodland. Um, it just makes you grow more. It's really how I would put it.
Now, talk about that growth. What for you grew from last year to this year? Was it more the mental side? Was it the physical side? Or was it neither?
Think it was a little bit of both, and then also part like I had to become more of a leader now that our seniors are gone, and
Mm.
also I didn't want to feel how I felt after losing the Ansonia, Woodland, and Bloomfield again, so I knew we had to step it up.
When the season concluded, um, how quick was it before? And I know you play baseball as well, and you're a fantastic baseball player with the Crusaders. Um, how quickly did you, or not quickly, did you kind of turn the page on football? Was football always in the back of your mind as far as what happened last year and what you want to do to get back on that field?
Always in the back of my mind. I just wanted to, if I could, I'd take another shot at Bloomfield. Every game we lost, I want it back so bad.
So when you're on the diamond after you make a sick play, right? Are you thinking about, okay, after you get the out and you're tossing the ball around, depending if there's someone on base or not? Are you thinking about, darn, that Bloomfield game still gets me mad?
Definitely. I'll
Really?
think about that one play in one of those games and be like, oh man, could have made that play. Would have been a difference maker.
So, Drew, I really appreciate you coming on. How is camp been? I know you guys played Hill House a couple days ago. I think it was yesterday, if I remember right. You were talking about how you didn't perform at your best. Um,
Definitely.
what were things, if you can share, what were some of the things that did not go well in terms of what you think?
I just held the ball a little bit too much, and I think I didn't really trust my reads like I usually do. But
Mhm.
things happen. You have a bad day once in a while.
Like I mentioned to you, bad days happen. It's a good thing to get them out of the way now because once week one starts, you don't want those bad days that much.
Right. That's when it all counts.
Exactly. Now, obviously, Holy Cross has been to the playoffs a number of times, over a handful of years. There's been a lot of talent to come through, Ward and Leegee, and we can go on and on and on. Do you realize kind of the trajectory and what because people are talking about not just the NVL, but the possibility of maybe having not just Ansonia in a championship game. You have the Holy Crosses of the world. Noggy's been talked about the last couple of years. They just haven't been able to get that playoff win. You guys got that last year against New Fairfield, right? So that's kind of one check off the box. Does the team, dumb question, but does the team realize the kind of potential that they have as far as this season?
I think they do. We talk about all the time what we could do when we perform at our best and we focus and pay attention to what we're being coached to do.
If you could pick one thing that not that would so much be a bugaboo, but could be I wouldn't even say a struggle, but maybe something to focus on a little bit more before the Woodland game. What should be the focus for this team before that game?
I'd say just staying focused. Sometimes, you like to have fun at practice, but
Mhm.
we have to really focus because they got us last year. It's a well coached team we're playing. Those kids are tough. They
Mhm.
play hard.
Now, with you saying that you being the leader, right? And are you one of the captains this year?
And,
Okay, so and first year being the captain?
yep.
Congratulations on that. That's a high honor. Um, you talk about keeping the focus on. Is that something as a leader, a new leader, that you're kind of learning yourself as far as when to speak up? Because you got to remember, I mean, you know this. There's how many kids on your team? 70, 60,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
60. You got 60 different personalities. You got one dude who's goofy, another one's serious, another one's hot and cold depending on the weather. So, are you kind of learning how to be that leader as well?
Yeah, definitely. I learned a lot from our former captains, Leegee, Josh Holland, Donnie Shivas. I learned a lot from them when they were leading the team. And they taught me well.
Drew, awesome to be able to have you. Before I let you go really quick, what are some obviously getting to a state championship and winning the ring? That goes without saying. But for you specifically, what kind of goals do you have for yourself that you want to accomplish?
Grow as a football player, become better, get better every week, get better every practice, every day, and just win games.
Drew, as always, appreciate you coming on. Best of luck and look forward to being able to see you next Thursday at Municipal Stadium.
Thank you for having me.
Always. I'll wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Majority Find Them All. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.